Punk the God actually was on Brian F's Trash Talk podcast, where Brian F basically sits down with different people, discuss their career, uh, recent events and things of that nature. And one thing Punk actually, well, I want to say confessed, like he was just holding like this big dark secret. But one thing that he actually revealed was that he actually never completed high school. He basically got to his last year of college, of high school. He basically said he was getting his cap and gown and everything. But next thing you know, his Street Fighter career just took off. He got a brand deal. He was doing very well, with his placings and stuff like that. And he basically just said he went and told his mom, like, hey, if I got to choose between school and this, I'm doing this. And he basically said his parents basically were just like, okay, cool. And he went off and started his fighting game career. Now, Punk is definitely one of those. A lot of people are saying the exception to the rule. Many people responded to this and basically saying, like, yeah, kids don't listen to this. Please complete schooling. You want to have a backup plan. But Punk succeeded. So basically, from this, how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like he made the right choice? Do you feel like that's an example that many people can follow? What's your thoughts on it? We'll start with you, MC Mason.
Oh man. Well, first off, I would have to say that I mean, even him himself, even Punk himself says that he would not recommend that people go that route with it. He actually said like straight up is like, no, I would not recommend anybody doing that. But like, I mean, he was a success though, right? Like, and I think that's I mean, that keys into a couple different things. I think number one, that he had enough faith in himself to actually go out and like do something like that, because I think you should want to gamble on yourself and gamble on your skills and stuff, but like there is like the risk reward kind of thing. I think maybe you should have probably finished school first, but that's just my opinion. I mean, he made, like I said, he made it, you know. But but also, like, once again, like he said, he wouldn't recommend to other people doing that. And I think like he is definitely the exception to the rule. I think it's a good idea to have like a solid foundation first. But also, I think it's cool that his like parents believed in him enough to like support him on that, because a lot of parents would not have supported that. Like a lot of parents would have been like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? I mean, I remember you know, so when I started streaming like a few years ago, and I was doing that like pretty much full time, like my parents supported me. Like, I mean, wholesale, no questions asked. They were like, we have no idea what this is, no idea, but we will help you in whatever way we can. And like that, I mean, they really have my back, And I think like in a situation like that, when you have people who are willing to be in your corner for something like that, especially when it's something that maybe they don't completely have like a grasp on, like, because they could have easily, like, it's even in either case, in my case, Punk's case, like they could have easily said, nah, forget it, bro. Like you need to go get like an actual job or something. It was like, it was, I don't know, man. Like there's something to be said about people who are really willing to go like to go down that route with you, to walk that path with you, and to really put their faith in you, like as like and like put their faith in you as like a product, as an investment, or whatever, just as you as like you yourself going out and doing what you're passionate about, what your big dream is. And I like I said, I think like I mean, definitely stay in school, kids, but at the same time, you never know, man. Sometimes like when it comes to stuff like that, you never know who has your back, when like it comes to the time when you say, hey, I want to make a decision that's going to be like change the direction of my life, And it and like the thing about it is like maybe what would have happened if he had like not done well, right? Like what would have happened? I think like also this might be an exception to the rule, that maybe like his parents would have been like, oh, okay, well, it didn't work out. Let's try something else. Like, let's, you go back to school, finish school, something like that, and then do something else. So, I mean, I would say finish high school first, but like the thing is like, it's always good to have faith in yourself and bet on yourself. but also within reason, y'all. So I don't know. Like I will say though, like I said, it's really good to have people who believe in you that much.
I can go next just in case I forget what this is that's on my mind right now. Um, I think with Punk, he definitely is the exception to the rule, but you also have to look at context. If you look at the time that he did this was around like 2017, 2018. If we remember around that time in the FGC, it was a big boom of like people investing in like esports. It was teams everywhere. Everybody was getting sponsored. Everybody had a sponsor. It was just one of them times where it was just like it was kind of weird to like watch a tournament and not see your top players had an acronym beside their name for whatever their team meant and stuff like that. So, Punk, he got sponsored by Panda around that time. And back then they were giving people like, sizable stuff. Like there were some people like, infiltration. I know that's a name that, kind of people don't want to throw out, but he came out and said he was making six figures a year from his team. There were some people that it was normal they getting like 10K a month, just to like hey, invest in your game, play your game, go to these tournaments, get your placings, wear our logos, put our brand out there, blase blase. So you have to look at the time too. One, not only was Punk a great, fantastic player, but two, there was a time where it was like the perfect timing for him to do it. They was giving it out. And then basically with them basically giving everybody that money, and then not everybody, but a lot of people that money, and then at the
Yeah,
same time he was
exactly.
a great player. It kind of went together at the same time. Now, when you talk about today, everybody's kind of figured out that that plan isn't working. Like they're not making their return on investment, just giving players all these money and telling them like, hey, wear my jersey, get my face out there. They're not getting a return on investments like that. And then also you see today that if you want to be a player, most times you have, unless you're somebody like Daigo or something who just solidified, even Justin Wong is out here. You have to do so many different things. You got to have content. You got to want to go and get probably separate sponsors, do your own merch, build your own brand. It's so much other stuff that you have to do today. Back in 2017, it was like nobody was even thinking about like a player having a YouTube, making content, building your own brand. Everybody was just focused on getting that sponsor. So you have to realize it's a different time too. It's more difficult to become a pro player because even if you're good, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody's going to give you any money. We're seeing today a lot of players are getting dropped, and this is right before Capcom Cup. You know, so you got to understand the times that we're in now. So it's more context to it. Punk might not have known back then, but that was the perfect time that if he was going to do something like that, that was the best time to do it. Now I wouldn't recommend that because there's so many other things that you need to do. So many other factors that go in hand to making sure you have a professional career that's probably going to take longer for you to be there. So many of these pro players tell you like, man, I was working part-time, full-time jobs trying to go home, practice, then go to tournaments, and then fly to, go to locals, then go to different tournaments and all that other stuff. And stuff costs money, especially in America. So I think you just really have to look at the total context of that because a lot of people just hear that and then just run out the window. And like Punk said, he wouldn't recommend it today because he understands more being in the scene of what it takes to be a pro player. So I'd say I'll always like, what they always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Or, even like you go in scripture and stuff like that. They say, work your one thing in the day and then, do this at night. You never know which one's going to take off first. So, I mean, it's just good knowledge, principle. Like, just don't fly out there and not have a backup plan. So, you, Mr. Gamer.
So I'm gonna first start out by just saying I actually really respect Punk for the decision that he made, and the reason why I'm saying is because you got one life that you've been given, and all too often we're like afraid to take a chance on ourselves, and like if you believe like you have a special gift in something, you're afraid to pursue it. You're afraid to like just go all in with it, and there is the risk of it not turning out that way. But sometimes you just might have a feeling like, okay, I feel like there's something here. I also think his parents supporting him was dope too, because a lot of times, especially when it comes to gaming, that's very taboo. most parents is like, no, you're not doing this at all. Like gaming, there's nothing in that. You'll never amount to anything with this. There's nothing that's going to come from this. So at the very least, that they supported him for that. I will say though, being on the edge of graduating, I would have done it at the very least. And also, I mean, you got to look at the thing too. Like it's almost like we're just programmed to be kind of robots in a sense, in a way. When you look at like, go to high school, go to college. Sometimes college not for everybody. You can do other things, do trade school or something like that. But one thing, he doesn't have a mountain of debt, you know. So it's like he chose a path, right? And again, he doesn't recommend it. And I do believe there's an importance in education for sure. There's no question about that. But even me, like talking to some of my family members that are teachers, is like the school systems and stuff, and like their standards for stuff is getting really, really iffy nowadays. Like the average reading grade level is like 7th, 8th grade, and it's like we're talking to her. That's not even really just because the students are applying themselves or whatever, but it's like the curriculum's getting a little weird where they're not like emphasizing certain things, and I'm like, are we trying to make? I don't know. That's a whole tangent, but that's just kind of part of that thing. So I do believe education is important, but you know, I mean, he found his path. He had enough courage to go there and do it. I'm sure he was afraid, because you can't have courage without fear. He chose to bank on himself, and it worked out. And like Rickson said, there was a time where like, because I was like, wait a minute, I feel like Punk was just sponsored by Panda Global yesterday, and I'm like, dang, that was 2017. I feel like he was just sponsored by them. But
yeah, he was from 2020 to 2022. He was sponsored by Panda until they had that whole fiasco where, you know, the thing with the owner, and they had to disband.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, like I said, he and of course he is a talent, a very talented person, part at 1%. But I mean, I just think in general, an important thing to take from this is sometimes in a smart way, you know, outweigh your options and assess what's going on. And sometimes just bet on yourself. Like, man, I watched there was this clip from an Oprah episode like long time ago with Jim Carrey. She had him on, and he gave his whole story about his father. His father was a funny guy, one of the funniest guys he knew. That's where he got his funny from. His father wanted to be a comedian, wanted to be like, you know, a comedic actor. He never did. Why? Because he was scared. That's not going to work out. That's not a true route to success. I'm not going to be anybody by doing that. I got to go clock into this job. That's what's going to, you know, give me what I need, right? So he said his father dies, and he was like, his father like, this is a path you got to take. So I know you want to be a comedian, but that's not going to work out. That's just not how people become successful. He was like, well, I really want to do this. And then he really wanted to do even more because his father, like, that was a path he wanted to take. So he felt like he was honoring his father by like, I want to do this. I want to be a comedian. I want to make this my path for success. So, but he was scared. He's like, well, my mom and father, everybody's telling me, hey, go the safe route, go get a job, go get a real job. That's a safe route, right? Then he says he gets laid off, and he's like, well, I did what y'all told me was a safe route. How can this be safe if I just got let go at a whim? He's like, I thought y'all told me there was security here. Like, this was what I was supposed to do. And he said from that point on, he was like, I'm going to follow what I said I was going to do in the first place. He said he wrote a check to himself for $1 million for acting services rendered. And I think I forgot what movie it was, Dumb and Dumber, some movie where he actually got $1 million, like his first that much money. And it's because he bet on himself. And that was a powerful story, just because he was like, it had been driven in his head his whole life. Get a good job. This is job security. Go to school. Do this. That's the thing that's going to keep you safe and warm. And then he get laid off. He's like, but and of course anything can happen, but he just said that like, y'all preach this being so safe and secure, and I just got let go like I was nothing. Yeah. And that's when he said, hey, I'm going to do my thing. So
yeah. And like, and on that same tip, you know, it's like it's not like he succeeded the first time he went out either, right? Like he had to fail multiple times to get to where he was. Like, and it was like it was like Mr. Gameoff was saying, it's like this is my path, right? So I'm gonna keep going, like regardless of how many times like things happen, like you keep trying, you keep working hard, like something's bound to happen, you know, and it did. And I mean, like he failed quite a few times. Like it was, and I could understand like, based on like, like go kind of getting kind of into the limelight and then kind of falling out of the limelight and then having to go home, after that, and then just kind of being like, kind of build yourself back up to put yourself out there again. Like that's tough, man. Like I can only imagine what that's like. So yeah, man, it's there's a lot that goes into it, man. So hats off to Jim Carrey and to Punk for like pursuing their dreams, man. Because I know it must not have been easy. Like there's bound to be rough spots for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Don't despise humble beginnings, everybody, because like I
Yeah.
said, the thing with Punk, like even though it might seem like super instant with him, I mean, he just had that talent. Like I said, it was a perfect time. I mean, he still talked about like how he played games so much, how he practiced, how he, was in the scene a lot, grinding and all of that stuff before he was able to get to where he was. But yeah, a lot of times for most people, it won't be that like, seemingly sudden success and stuff like that. Takes a lot of grind in that stuff. It takes a lot of like, working that stuff, chipping away slowly over time. Because most times you hear people saying, like, let's just say general business. They'll tell you, like, hey, for me to grow my business to get to a point to I could just go and fully do that, it took me about 5 years. 5 years might seem like a lot, but it's not in the grand scheme of your entire life.
Yeah.
So, you know, taking a slow route and stuff like that, isn't the worst thing. I mean, it's definitely one of the most it's definitely one of the ways you can make certain that you're doing it in an effective, appropriate way. Because a lot of times it won't be like, like a lot of times you hear music, like people make one hit and then next thing you know, it's like they everywhere, all on TV, doing this, doing that, doing the other. Like, if you really be honest, like, and step back, it didn't work like that for most people. So, you just
Yeah.
have to know your situation.